Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Dixon, the founder of eBay.io, and I'm pleased to join you today on 3.0 TV to bring you the latest traders report. So we'll take a look first of all at the dollar index. I mean, markets are pretty bullish overall, but as we approach the interest rate decision coming up just Wednesday, that's less than 3 days away now, it's going to be very, very important. Probably the first interest rate cut we're going to be seeing for a long time. We've not seen a cut for a long time now in the US. We're going to see a cut, I think, almost definitely on Wednesday. And it looks as though we're going to see continued cuts. So for the three meetings that remain this year, we're looking now, it's priced in that we're likely to see a cut at every meeting. In fact, six cuts over the next year. I'll just show you the CME FedWatch tool. This shows that basically they've priced in 100% chance of a rate cut. So 96.2% chance we'll see 25 basis points and a 3.8% chance of a 50 basis point cut. So add those together and we effectively have a 100% chance of a cut in rates. That's for September. That's when this Wednesday coming. October, we can see a vast majority for another rate cut. And then December this year, we see again a vast majority for yet another rate cut. So it's looking as though we're going to see plenty of rate cuts coming down the line, which could be supportive of risk assets. But let's go back to that US dollar, because obviously the value of the US dollar against other currencies does depend to some extent on the level of interest rates. If interest rates are higher, you can effectively get a higher return on your dollar deposits, and it means that more money will be invested into US dollar. So higher interest rates potentially will strengthen the dollar, and that's sometimes negative for crypto assets. So we do see, though, that long term, so this is a relatively good parallel channel here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It pretty well provides a boundary above and below for the price of the US dollar against other currencies. So this is the DXY, which is basically a basket of currencies against the US dollar, main one being the euro. But we can see that from the beginning, this dotted line here, vertical dotted line here, or dashed line, was when Bitcoin was created back in 2009. And from that time, we've actually seen dollar rising overall, continual rise of the US dollar right up to today, even though it's fallen short term. Overall, we've seen a rise in the dollar. And that's corresponded or correlated positively with a rise in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin obviously started at virtually nothing, and now it's 116,000 today. So we've seen rise in Bitcoin, rise in US dollar, but short term is a different story. We've covered this before, but basically short term, when we see dollar falling, we usually see Bitcoin rising and vice versa. So for example, when we saw a peak in the dollar here, that was actually the FTX low for Bitcoin. That's when the price of Bitcoin was $15,500 there or thereabouts. So that was a peak in dollar, a trough in Bitcoin price. Then as we saw dollar falling, and it's a very clear A, B, C fall, and the B wave is particularly clear. We can see the small A wave up, the ABC B wave down, and another sharp C wave higher to finish the B wave. So basically it's an A, B, C. So for me, that tells me that we're likely to bounce higher reasonably soon. That's the most probable outcome, although it's not a certainty, because if this were five waves down, five waves can be a wave A or a wave one. Then we've got an ABC up, which can be a wave B or a wave two. And then we've got quite an impulsive, powerful move down, which can be the beginning of a wave three, or it can be wave C. So this is why we're actually at a crossroads, and it's why I've got a big question mark here. And it's really, really important. The outcome of this dollar value of the dollar here, the outcome, whether it's going to bounce from this long held parallel channel here upwards, or whether it sinks through and drops lower, has a massive impact on risk asset prices. So that's why, will the dollar bounce on the long held support or begin a serious decline? So potentially with the blue arrow up and the red arrow down, that's the crossroads really. And it's going to be very, very important. It'll probably be decided this Wednesday. We're that close. So interestingly, we often use divergences. So we can see, for example, we got here higher highs on price. That took us to the FTX low. So higher highs on dollar price and corresponding lower lows on RSI peaks here. So higher peaks on price, lower peaks on RSI. That told us of regular bearish divergence. And that signaled the price decline that we got in the US dollar. So that was perfect. We also had before that here, we had a hidden bullish divergence where basically you got higher lows in price and you got lower lows in corresponding RSI. That signaled the move up here in the dollar. So that was basically we had a peak in the Bitcoin price. Then as dollar moved up, Bitcoin moved down. And this is the shorter term inverse correlation that we see. So again, it's very, very important. These turns in the dollar do actually correspond with turns in Bitcoin price. And obviously, most of crypto tends to follow Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin goes, the others follow. So, as I say, we're potentially ABC or 1, 2, 3. You actually can't tell the difference at the moment. So, it's going to be very, very important whether we do break through this trend line here. So, we will be watching that very, very closely come Wednesday. At the moment, things are looking reasonably bullish, but that's what we expected as we head towards this interest rate decision with the likelihood, almost definite, nailed on certainty now that we're going to see a rate cut on Wednesday. That's positive for crypto assets. And so we've seen a nice little climb on Bitcoin. So we were on a monthly. This is a long-term chart. I'll scroll out of that. These vertical lines are the halving events. I mean, it's worth looking that this is roughly where we'd expect Bitcoin to peak. Within the halving cycle, it peaks around about 38% of the time into the halving cycle. So we're about that now, around about 38% into this current halving cycle. So we'd expect Bitcoin to peak out round about this level. So we'll switch back to the daily chart now for Bitcoin. And we can see we're very, very close to that potential peak in Bitcoin. If these halving cycles are predictive still, it's a very short amount of data, really. We've only got 4 halving cycles, but they do seem to be predictive. And it does seem that about 38% in, which is denoted by this vertical dash line here, is where we'd normally see a peak in Bitcoin. So it doesn't have to be exactly there. It can be there or thereabouts. So it's not absolutely precise, but it's telling us that we may be somewhere near a peak in Bitcoin. And that, going back to the dollar index, would tell us that maybe we're going to see a bounce in the dollar soon. So let's see what happens on Wednesday. If we get, we could even get a 50 basis point cut as a surprise. But we need to see how that affects the prices. So at the moment, looking shorter term, we can see from this wave 4 down here, we've had basically wave 1, 2, 3, 4, working on a fifth wave to the upside at the moment. Sorry, we've worked on it. We've had a fifth wave to the upside, finishing wave 3. We've had an A, a B, and a C down, I think, for wave 4. And I think most likely we are on the way to all-time highs for Bitcoin. So I do think we're likely to see a further push higher. This is looking like a mini start of it. It's a 5 wave impulse by the look of it. So we may get a bit of a pullback and another push to the upside. I do believe that we're likely to see a new all-time high for Bitcoin, possibly to finish off this massive impulsive cycle that we've seen all the way back, going back years now. Excuse me. So I do think at the moment things are looking bullish. And as I say, we're seeing Bitcoin above 116,000, which is pretty positive. We're seeing Ethereum, again, looking quite bullish here. There was the all-time high for Ethereum that we had quite recently. We probably finished a wave 4 down, and we're looking now at an impulse higher, probably to take us to a new all-time high for Ethereum. Solana has been performing extremely well. We've had really powerful push to the upside. Not sure whether we may get a very short-term correction, then further push to the upside. I do think, again, it's looking, along with Bitcoin, Ethereum, looking quite bullish. XRP, again, as you all know, I've been bullish XRP for some time. We're working through, I think, wave 1 up with the circled area here, wave 2 down, wave 3 up. That's quite a clear, powerful, impulsive move for wave 3, which is very typical. Then we've got some kind of ABC down for wave 4, or it could even potentially be a triangle, ABCDE triangle. But either way, it looks like it's a wave 4, either completes here, or we may just have one slight little dip lower to go to complete wave 4. And then we should push up to a new all-time high for XRP. This, in comparison, in contrast to this move up here, wave 3, which we can see is quite powerfully moving up with no overlaps. We can see that this movement here, this wave four, is very typical of a corrective wave four, very sideways overlapping movement, as I say, very much in contrast to this powerful wave three. So I do think it's a correction, whether it's complete here or maybe has another dip, who knows? But I do think that we can basically could have bought the dip here if it dips lower again. I'm reasonably confident we can still buy the dips and look to push higher for Bitcoin. Sorry, for XRP, sorry. So the same goes pretty much across the board. Wherever I'm looking, I'm seeing a reasonable amount of bullishness. We have had an amazing pump. I did feature pump.fun recently, and just look at the pump that it's had. I mean, in terms of, I'll just remove some of these fib measurements just to make it a bit clearer where we are. So, I did say that we're going to get a good pump higher. I did say even when we had, by the way, this 11 waves up, 11 waves down, that is corrective, telling us we're going to then get an impulse higher. That's exactly what we've seen. So from that low level, let's just see how much we have appreciated in price. I mean, it's been phenomenal. To the very top there, from the bottom, well, it's 76% increase in price. I think it's actually done more than that, to be honest. I'll have to maybe I got it the wrong way around there. Let's just check it out. Yeah, from the low point here, there we go. The point, sorry, yeah, I was way out. It's 300% increase in price to the top. So it's been a tremendous run for Pump.Fun. I think we were overdue a bit of a pullback, but probably it's not done as yet. It's one of the more volatile tokens, but I think they've got a lot in pipeline in terms of development. They've been very, very successful, obviously, with their platform where people can launch meme coins. It's been very popular. And they've got further developments, really interesting developments in the pipeline. So I do think Pump.Fun may have further to go, but I wouldn't chase the highs. I'd probably wait for a bit of a pullback and look to jump in then. So I think that's probably enough for today. As I say, backdrop is reasonably bullish. Let's be very cautious though as we come towards Wednesday, particularly on Wednesday. I don't like to trade through these big data releases. An interest rate decision is a major potential turning point for assets. So I'll be extremely cautious as we come into that Wednesday rate decision. So hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to catching up again soon. Bye for now.